got to get the car washed today. It's been probably about a month since I've washed it. With a newborn, it's been way too exhausting to find the time, and yeah, so first wash since we had our daughter, and I figure I'll bring you guys along for the ride and talk a little bit about why I decided to buy this car, essentially for a second time. This is the only car that I've ever owned twice, and I want to talk a little bit about why. I'm super passionate about these cars in particular. So let's go ahead and get the car out of here, drive out to a car wash, get this thing cleaned up, and we'll talk a little bit along the way. So let's talk about the first reason why I would pick up another Alfa Romeo again. And for me, that's really just, this car feels so special. I've owned other cars, I've had Porsches, BMWs, driven a lot of other really cool cars, but none of them has felt as special and as this one does. It feels really unique. I think unique is probably the better way to put it. What do I mean by that? I mean, for one, there's just not that many Italian cars on the road. So this isn't another car that you're just going to run into other like similar looking cars. It stands out a lot. I think it sounds great. It has a lot of heritage. And it's also just a brand that hasn't been in the United States in a long time. So there aren't many on the road, and they've been around for, you know, over 100 years at this point. I don't know, it's a really cool brand. And then this car in particular, I think is really cool. I didn't have a ton of interest in Alfa Romeo before the Giulia Quadrifoglio came out. And the 4C was really cool, don't get me wrong. But this was really the first car that got me super, super excited. And that was before we knew all the information about it. We saw the final design, and then it came out and I got to drive it, and I was just totally sold on it. Yeah, I owned my first one. It was a 2017 that I got in early 2017. Actually, it was about summer of 2017. And that car was awesome. And there were so few Giulias on the road when I got it. I got the Trofeo white, so it was like a pearlescent white. Just super, super stood out. And then because no other cars on the road really looked like it, that car got a lot of attention. I owned a 911, a blue M2, and a GT4, all kind of surrounding the ownership of that white Quadrifoglio. And man, none of those got the attention that white Quadrifoglio did. I think a lot of that's just because no one ever seen anything like that on the road. But man, it was crazy. It was just, I've never had a car that I've owned turn so many heads. And that was the first sedan that I've ever owned, and it was turning heads like that. So that was crazy. So if the first point was that the car is unique, I think the second reason I really wanted to own one again was it just feels so much more special than the price point, the competition, all of that. I mean, what other sedan can you get into with this kind of performance, with this, like, the pedigree that Alfa Romeo has in general, and have, you know, fixed paddles, have a Ferrari-derived engine. Like, it's really a crazy car. I'm really surprised that they made it. I'm super surprised that we got it in the United States, but I'm super glad that we did. I think I've driven the competition. I've driven the C63S. I've driven the F80 M3. I guess I haven't driven the Audi competition, but this car just feels so different to all of those. And that's not necessarily to knock any of those cars. They're all phenomenal cars in their own way, but this one to me just feels so different. Being able to get carbon back seats with fixed paddles, with, like I said, this Ferrari-derived engine, unique looks. Like, it looks exotic for a four-door like car, and that's pretty crazy. I do not understand how YouTubers get those shots where they floor it under an overpass or something and have a significant, like a good angle for all this stuff, because man, the sedan in this car is a little cramped. So I guess that brings me to like my third reason for considering this car again, and it's probably the most practical reason of all of them, but it's a sedan. It's a performance sedan, and like I said in the beginning of this video, our daughter was just born. You know, we needed we didn't need a family car. We have a car that handles that. My wife has a Mini, and that's perfectly suited to like hauling our family around. but I wanted to own a car after the GT4 that I could share more comfortably with my wife and my daughter and just our growing family. And so what I mean by that is just having something that's a little bit more comfortable for long rides, so it's not work to convince my wife that we should take my car on a longer road trip or something like that. I think it's really fun to build memories and have experiences with cars, not just drive them and drive them around like a flex. I think that's super important. This dude's staring, it's super weird. But yeah, I needed a performance sedan, so this car has a car seat that fits in the back of it. It's comfortable. It's more comfortable than the F80 M3 when you put the suspension into the softer settings. It's enjoyable to drive. My wife can drive it. Yeah, it's just a fun car to have, and it's a car that we can make memories with. So I think that brings me to my last point on why I decided to go with this car again. It goes with my previous point, which was about being able to share the car, it being practical. I think the biggest thing is getting to revisit a car that I don't think that I had enough time with. So my last Quadrifoglio, I owned that car for 7 months, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was super reliable. That's why I joke about the title for this video, actually, is I've had no problems with my Alfa Romeos so far. I've had this one for over 3 months now. I had my previous one for 6 months, but drove both of them hard. Put miles on them when I owned them. I didn't baby those cars. They weren't weekend cars. They were definitely daily drivers. But I made so many memories with my last one. My wife and I took that car out, and I joked with her that we were going to go take pictures of it real quick, and we went out to a scenic location, and that's where I proposed to her. So for me, the Quadrifoglio has been a very special car, and it's a car that I think that I didn't get to spend all of the time with that it deserved. It's a car that I didn't get to fully experience, and I think one of the downsides in going through cars kind of quickly is not getting to fully experience all of them. And so there for a little while I was going and getting a car and trading out of it in 6, 9 months, 12 months. And there's something to be said for that. It's if you have the ability to try out different cars, life is short, and there are a lot of cars that a car enthusiast might want to drive. I don't feel like I had enough time with my Quadrifoglio. I didn't modify it really at all. I did a couple of little cosmetic things, but I have lowering springs that have already arrived for this car. I'm going to lower this one. That should happen in a video in the next week or two. And yeah, I just want to be able to make new memories with this car, celebrate the memories that I had with my previous one, and yeah, continue to make new ones. Buying a car that I had a great experience with before, I really didn't have anything to complain about with my last car, except for the fact that I had the standard seats in that car. I think the carbon seats in this one are way superior. They feel way sportier. You can sit a little bit lower down in the car, and that makes a pretty big difference into how special a particular Quadrifoglio can feel. Yeah, I'm looking forward to owning this unreliable car again, putting more miles on a ticking time bomb, modifying this one, but sharing those experiences too, and just trying to demystify this idea that these cars are going to blow up on you, that they're super unreliable, because that just hasn't been my experience. That hasn't been a lot of people's experiences. And I know some cars have had their issues, but this being a 2019, they've ironed out issues over the last few years, even though my 2017 was perfect. We've got CarPlay now, that's really enjoyable. In my car, I've done the 2020 steering wheel retrofit, and so it feels a little bit more modern than it might otherwise. And yeah, this unreliable car is something that I'm excited about putting my family in and doing long drives and road trips and all of that with. So yeah, I'm excited to share that journey and show you guys how awesome these cars are, because there's never been another car that I've been so motivated to buy a second time around. And now that I've done that, I want to show why I did that. And I think there's no better way to start this channel than with this car, these ownership experiences, showing what my life is looking like now that I've got a newborn, and we plan on moving next year. So I think we've got a lot of adventures to share, but a lot of those will happen behind the wheel of this car and behind cars in general. So I'm a huge car enthusiast, and I'm just looking forward to sharing these experiences with this car when I get out of this car with whatever the next car will be. Yeah, I just think it's super fun. There's too many cars that for one person to realistically own, and this is my way of sharing what it's like to own this one for people who maybe won't own it. They don't want to, they don't have the means to yet. Maybe it's motivation for someone. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever it may be, I just kind of wanted to share my experience. I just pulled into the car wash, and I got here right as an 812 was leaving, and I missed it. I didn't get it on video, but I cruised down a few lights with him, and just the sound of the 812 is nuts. God, a naturally aspirated V12 is just a whole different caliber of sound based on like that compared to anything that I've ever owned. It's crazy. Dude was super nice too. Pulled up next to him at the light. I was like, "Yeah, that's an 812, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, it's a incredible car and just friendly. Like you never know with a car of that caliber, the people who own them and drive them, you never know if they're going to be a real car enthusiast or just someone with money out here flexing." So I've got these buckets which I'll pull out, and we'll do a multi-bucket wash here at the corn op. So I'll rinse it off once and then come back around, and we'll do a 2-bucket and then a wheel bucket wash. And yeah, it's pretty filthy right now. And I'll do a little cleaning up of the inside, at least just hitting it with the vacuum. I think I'm gonna have to retire that drying aid and switch to something else. This has not been my favorite, but almost done. That's it. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the car home, relax. I'm sweaty, it is hot, this was a long drive for me. Yeah, but I hope this video clears some things up, and I think is also a little bit informative about what the channel is going to be, right? It's going to be my ownership experience with the Quadrifoglio, with future cars, and just trying to be as real about what it's like to have these cars as someone who really appreciates them. And honestly, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to own anything like this for, right? Like, this could dry up at any point. So my whole outlook on this is I'm going to enjoy the cars that I can while I can, even if sometimes it's a financial stretch. This isn't that case, but there will probably be one of those in the future. So yeah, that's all. If you like this video, if this was interesting at all, if you have any questions about the Quadrifoglio, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to add more stuff. I'm not going to spam people with a bunch of notifications. I don't really use YouTube like another social media platform. For me, it's just a place to post videos, share this ownership experience, and leaving a like and subscribing really just lets me know that people are interested in this, that I'm making the right things. And above all of that, like leaving a comment is super helpful because then I know what you all are interested in. So please go ahead, do that. Let me know what you want to see. I think the next video is going to be me lowering this car. I have ST springs by KW. Those are going to go on the car, I believe, next week, hopefully, if everything goes as scheduled. So that's the hope, and then we'll get this car a little bit lower than the 2017s came. I think it's going to look a lot better, and I've got more modifications planned in the future. So yeah.